Hi everyone, my computer broke down, so I'm a little bit behind on our videos. It's been in the shop now for a week. It's still in the shop, and I'm hoping to get it back before we are going on a family trip to New York. So I'm hoping we get it back before then. And I will probably be a little bit behind because of our New York trip. I'm meeting my sister and her boys there, and we're going to just have a fun time as a family. Anyways, we are going to focus on conjunctions today, and conjunctions have different functions. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Anyways, I grew up with that song, and it's just old school, and I'm sure lots of you maybe have heard it, but it's Schoolhouse Rock, which actually has some really fun tunes, just their characters are very outdated, but still it has a fun tune. And we're going to talk about the word how, and people get confused about the word how a little bit, and so we're just going to go over that, and adverbs again. All right, we're going to start out with some dictionary words that I thought that it was important for my boys and everybody else to really understand. Now, the word ministry, it is a root, and it comes from the Latin origin, and I like to pull these apart so that you can see where the parts of speech are, where and how old the word is, because then we can understand a little bit better how to spell it, or just it's fun to know the origin. Anyways, this word came from Middle English, and it is Latin, so that helps us spell it better and pronounce it better. But ministry is a word that in the United States, most people just think as ministry in church. But when you're in Europe, and I'm not sure about some of the other areas in the world, but in Europe, it's government department. It's government departments and it's Christianity. Did you guys know that? Or did you only think about ministry being in church? Did you guys know it is government? Yeah. So, okay. So it's government department, it's Christianity, and under the leadership of a head of government. For example, a head of government would be the prime minister. So we also have the word private. It's an adjective. How do we know it's an adjective? We can say the private ministry. So see how this is a noun, the ministry. See how you can do that? But you can't say the private. The private. The only way you would say the private is if you're in military. And, but if this is an adjective. Ever use private as a noun would be when you're referring to somebody in the military. But as regular, when you're here as a common person, we use this as an adjective. It's Old English. It's a really, really old word. So when they put private together, it allowed owners to make money off of work of their employees. So like when you hear private property, that's what that was. So people owned banks, they owned railroads, they had their own businesses, and that's how they were able to make money off of that. Okay, so now we have a werewolf, and we see this. It's a noun, it's mythical, it's completely unbelievable. And when you actually think about really what happened with werewolves, you remember when we talked about our witch hunts, Paul? And Paul and I, we were working on one of his reports for school and focused on the witch hunts that happened in the United States, and they actually happened a ton in Europe for a couple hundred years, I think. They only, I think, happened in the United States but it wasn't as long as in Europe. But I mean, werewolves happened in Europe, and it was part of the witchcraft craze that was happening, where people would just get accused and killed, and it's completely unbelievable and very tragic. It almost makes me sick when I was actually studying about it. It was so sad. So this is how werewolves were accused. Well, many neighbors or authorities could make a case. They would accuse hermits loners, outsiders. They were accused of cannibalism, which is eating people. So we had one of the main werewolves, yeah.
Or eating their own kind.
Yes. One of the stories that I read about in Europe with the werewolf, prominent landowner, he was accused, and then they actually had found some wolves, and they killed some, and several children were getting taken. And anyways, they finally killed like a really big wolf, and all of the killing stopped. So they were accusing somebody else, and when it was actually really an animal that was killing these children. So anyways, I just think it's really a sad thing that happened. And when you think about hermits, loners, and outsiders, how important it is to minister to these people, and that's what we talk about a lot in our church, is ministry. And we talk about it probably every time we go to church, how important it is that we minister to one another, we minister to our neighbors. What is the first and great commandment that God has given us is love thy God with all thy heart, might, mind, and strength, right, boys? But then the second great commandment is love thy neighbor as thyself. And that the neighbor is everybody in the world. And so we teach that we love everybody in the world. It's not just right next to us. We treat everybody with kindness and love. Doesn't mean we set ourselves up for being abused or mistreated. We set our boundaries, but we still love. Anyways, let's go into the head of the ministry during World War II was Winston Churchill. Now, when you use the word ministry, it can be a little bit tricky because you could say the ministry was Winston Churchill. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So, or the head was Mr. Oftentimes you're going to be using them in prepositional phrases. You can say the ministry, and then you're going to have maybe a prepositional phrase to help you understand what they're talking about. Because if you don't have these other words, these other parts of speech, you're not even going to know what we're talking about with ministry. So here, see, look at this. We have our subject and then our linking verb right here. See how we have all of this. This is a prepositional phrase. This is a prepositional phrase. Remember how we talked about prepositional phrases are the workhorses of our sentence. And so the head was Winston Churchill. That's the main line that's going to go on. So we have right here, head and was. And then we have Winston Churchill right here. And this is, what is this called, boys? Winston Churchill is what part of speech? This is a predicate nominative. See how that's a noun. Okay, he serves in the ministry for his church in New Mexico. So I'm talking about Doug here. And so we have our subject and our verb. Look at all of these prepositions. So we have our subject and our verb. Now this is something I want to talk to you about. This is how we conjugate a verb. See, this is third person. And this is singular. What do we need? Singular, present, third person. And that tells us when we have to put this plural S look on it. Even though this is singular, because it's singular third person present, then you have to have an S on the end of your verb. That's singular, right? We're going to talk about adverbs now. Action is described by adverbs. When did the action happen? Why did the action happen? Where did the action happen? So they schooled daily. Well, that's a when. When did they school daily? They schooled because they wanted to be educated. Why? It's because. So because is actually a subordinating conjunction that's starting this, but it is an adverb clause describing school. So, and it's saying why. So adverbs They don't have to just be one word. You can have adverb phrases, adverb clauses, adverb words. So they schooled in a safe place. See, now this is a phrase. It's a prepositional phrase. Where did they school? It's in a safe place. I think some of the schools are getting crazy out there. And so we school at home in a safe place. So you see that this right here, in a safe place, is a prepositional phrase acting as an adverb, describing where, describing the verb schooled. Mostly ly adverbs tell how something was accomplished. So let's look at these sentences I made up. Daniel is highly accomplished in clogging. Now, this is telling us how. How is Daniel? He's highly accomplished. The snowstorm drastically changed our vacation plans. How? How did they do it? They drastically changed. See how this ly is actually telling how. Living in the mountains is incredibly hard work. How? How? It's incredibly hard. Living in the mountains very coolly and calmly changes the troubled heart. So look right here, we have an adverb here describing this verb changes, and then we have this adverb describing coolly and calmly. And I have never said that I was a writer, so I thought this sentence was not a very great sentence, but I still wanted you to see adverbs describe adverbs, and then these adverbs describe this verb. But I also wanted to show you that we can have an alliteration. Do you guys remember what an alliteration is? An alliteration is something that starts with the same letter. And we have coolly, calmly, and then we have changes. And I don't know, it looks really C, but this does change a little bit right here. So I'd almost say it was a 2, but still the look looks awesome. Coolly, calmly changes. We have C, and this like catches your reader's eyes. It's important to slide little alliterations in to beef up your writing. But now we're going to talk about our subjects and verbs. Daniel is accomplished. So we have right here is your auxiliary verb, right? What kind of verb is this, boys? What is it? Simple, progressive, perfect? When you look at that. Yes, so it is perfect. This is because you have right here an auxiliary verb helping this verb right here, and since it's an ed, you know it's sitting in the perfect position of the verb. And so now this is where it's really important for you to understand that your subject has to relate to this verb, not this verb, but this verb. Daniel is. We can't say Daniel are because Daniel is singular. So is singular. So when you are using your helping verbs, you have to check that with your subject and verbs. And that's why it's so important for you to understand your auxiliary verbs, what is singular and what's plural, because that's what you're going to hook up are these when you're using it in the perfect or the progressive. Okay, it's your helping verb that's going to do that. So Daniel is. We can say Daniel and Paul are highly accomplished in clogging. We can say it that way. So the snowstorm changed. So right here is singular, but when we don't have an auxiliary verb here, this is in the simple. Do you guys remember that? Mm-hmm. This is just simple. It's not, because we don't have an auxiliary verb right here. So it doesn't matter. We can say storm changed, or we could say storms changed. Doesn't matter, because we're not using an auxiliary verb there. Living in the mountains is works. This is an action verb right here. So is this singular or plural, boys? It is singular, so it has to go with the singular verb right here. Singular auxiliary verb that helps this action verb work. Living in the mountains changes. So what is this sitting in the simple, progressive, or perfect position in the verb? Tense. Simple, perfect, progressive, tense right here, guys. Changes. Paul?
Simple.
Nice. This is sitting in the simple. We know that because we do not have an auxiliary verb in front of it or somewhere up here in front of it that changes that. So that tells us, when do we have to have the S on the end? When it's what? Third person.
Simple present.
Simple present. Third person, simple present. If it's third person, simple present, you have to have your S right here if this is singular. Okay? All right, so now let's turn to the word how. Well, how can be lots of different parts of speech, but I'm going to focus on it being a noun. It functions as a question. Really, the two main core categories that it really focuses on is the manner and to what effect. Now, when you're trying to figure it out as a noun, because we often don't use it as a noun, but I want you to see that it can be a noun. You would use an article in front of it. So if your teacher says, I want you to write sentences with how as a noun, you can do that by putting an article in front of it, and then you can like play with the word. So here's an example. She wrote about the how in her essay. See how that has now become a noun. Okay, so now let's talk about it being an adverb. And this is where you're going to see it most of the time because they fall in questions. How does this watch work? Now, see how that's an adverb. So we're going to rewrite this sentence. How are you going to rewrite it as a statement?
Dance.
So it can be a little bit tricky. Okay, so Paul, try to put this in a statement. Daniel, you try to too. This watch does work. How?
Oh, I thought that was one sentence.
So we can say this watch. Oh, does work, because we have does. So this watch does work how? I mean, which sounds goofy but you still need it to make sense so you can diagram it, right? Watch is your subject. This watch is your demonstrative pronoun, which is acting as an adjective, and does work. But see, look, how is an adverb describing does work, okay? Do you guys see that? You're understanding that. Okay, so now, how could she do that? You guys put that in a statement. She could do that. How?
No.
She could. Yeah, it sounds goofy as a statement.
I think all of them sound goofy as a statement.
They do.
Question mark.
Oh, you're right. That she could do how. Yeah, the how, it makes it trippy. She could do that. So basically you're taking the how out, but you need to know where it's going to be. What's it going to describe? Okay? And it's going to describe your verb right here, how. How could she do that? Okay, so that is an adverb describing your verb. All right, so now the English language is a mix of many languages. Do you guys know that? We have our Latin, our Greek, we have French and Italian. We have so many different languages. That's why it actually is difficult to really understand English, is because it's made up of many languages. So English is a mix of many languages, so it can be difficult to explain how to understand and use some parts of speech. And that's what how is. It's sometimes difficult to understand really where to place that. And some people just say how is always an adverb, but it can be a noun, we can see that. But also, it could act as an imposter relative adverb because this is not, relative adverb is not your typical how, but it's kind of can act as maybe a imposter right there. And some people might not agree with me. Or it could be acting as a subordinating conjunction. See how it starts up this phrase? Explain how to understand and use some parts of speech. See, it's a subordinating conjunction. It's lower, below what the rest of this is. Okay, so, but it's starting the word out. But it can have different meanings. Also, it can maybe be an adjective. Can it be an adjective, guys? Do you think how can be an adjective? Yeah, it can. You know, some people might say, well, it's not, but some people will say, well, it can be. So just know that maybe some grammarians or grammarians just really differ in some of these things. How is she? Well, how would you rewrite that, you guys, when it's not? And like Daniel says, sometimes when you rewrite it, it still sounds like it's a question. She is what?
How.
She is how? So you would rewrite it, but when you're diagramming it, you could diagram it like this. She is how? Well, look, well, it's an adverb. But some people will say you can do it like this. She is, and you, whoops. She is, and then you can do how. And what would it be if it's sitting in this position?
Predicate adjective.
It would be a predicate adjective describing she. So some people might say that we could do that. It's out there, but I probably would say it's an adverb. That's my personal opinion. But you can, some people will say, yeah, maybe it could be an adjective. All right, so now let's talk about function words. Function words are necessary. They're important for understanding our language. So function words are conjunctions and other words in between that. So let's look at these sentences, and I'm going to have you tell me what all the other function words could be. So we know that they're conjunctions, and then I put in these underlined words, and you're going to tell me what the other between words are. Okay, Paul did understand the assignment in his grammar class. So I underlined the function words. So the function words are like the little small words. What is that, Paul? What part of speech? It's an auxiliary verb. So what a part of speech is this? Is the word the. It's an article. What a part of speech is in?
A preposition.
A preposition. What part of speech is his?
Prepositional phrase.
Pronoun. So now,
You have them both underlined at the same.
yeah, that's because it's going to go into a prepositional phrase. So that's what, these are other parts of speech, the other in-between words that is in the function. Okay? And so you need to remember what those are. Did. So these are our auxiliary verbs, our articles, our prepositions, our pronouns, and our conjunctions. Those are our functions. That we are function words. And that matters that you know that. Why? Why do you guys think that? Well, who cares? Who cares that we know that? Why does it matter? Do you guys know?
You want to learn.
I love that, Dan. Because you want to learn. Okay, so you do not emphasize function words. So if you don't even know what a function word is, you don't even know what to emphasize when you're reading. Okay? Does that make sense? So what does it mean to not emphasize a function word? Yeah, you give meaning in your voice. Okay, so now we have another sentence right here. Paul had finished his assignment before his teacher came. So the function words are had, his, before his. So what are these again? What's that?
Verb.
It is. It's an auxiliary verb. Now remember, it's important not to say it's just a verb. It's an auxiliary verb that are function words. You can totally say a helping verb. So his is what?
Adjective. And that's a PR.
Pronoun. How about before?
RAP.
Preposition. What's his?
The same thing.
So you're going to get some people saying, well, that's not a pronoun, but well, yeah, it's an adjective. These are adjectives. So these are possessive adjectives, right? And some people say, well, they're just adjectives. But you need to know that they fit in the pronoun family, because if you don't know that, you don't know that they fit there, you're not going to think that they're a function word. And these are not emphasized. They sit in that area as a pronoun, even though they're acting as an adjective here. There's still pronoun family in there. Okay? So Daniel will be finishing his schedule during the day. So here we have another auxiliary verb. We have possessive pronoun acting as an adjective. During is a preposition, and we have another article right here. Now, if you look at these, now function words are the words that we do not capitalize in titles. Unless they're at the beginning of sentences or at the beginning of the title.
Would you capitalize that?
Now, you would capitalize that. But you do capitalize demonstrative, and you capitalize relative pronouns. So you would capitalize that. Okay? Because we do capitalize demonstrative pronouns, which is this, that, these, and those. You capitalize that. So anything that starts a title, you would capitalize it. But if it's sitting inside the title, you don't capitalize your function words. These are the smaller in-between words. But they are crazy important for understanding what our language does. Right here, I would say this will is also a function word. I don't know why I don't have it underlined. Daniel will be finishing. So what would schedule be in this sentence? What part of speech would schedule be, boys?
A noun.
It is a noun. Yes, good. But what part of speech is it's sitting in? What position of a sentence? The direct object. Daniel is your subject. Will be finishing is your verb. And see, this is when you use the word will, this is having you sit in the future. And his schedule is your direct object. So that is your noun. And then here's your prepositional phrase. Now let's talk about, now we talked about function. Now let's talk about content words. Content words, they're the most important. So when you look at these sentences, the most important, let's say this sentence where we have with Paul. Paul finished assignment, teacher, and came would be the content words. What about in this sentence? What are the content words in this sentence, Paul?
Daniel finishing schedule day.
Good, Paul. Thank you, Daniel. What about this one, Paul? What is that one going to be? What are your content words in this sentence? All the other words that are not underlined are the content words.
Oh, Paul understand assignment grammar class.
Nice, good. So those are the content words. And see how they're the big main words? These are the main words that actually sit on the main line when you're diagramming. See how you would diagram, I mean, no matter what, the verb does go on the main line, but these are the main words. Anything that has like substance to the sentence is what you are going to be putting as your content word. Okay, in this sentence, my favorite time to read is when it is cold out or late at night. Okay, so now remember the underlined words, they're our function words, and the other words, they're our content words. Okay, our content words, remember, are the most important words, and our function words are the words that are important for understanding. All right, so, and you need to enhance or emphasize the content words. Do you have a question? Okay, so now remember, pronouns are function words, prepositions, function words, articles are function words, conjunctions are function words. They are included, or they're your between words that are in here. I do not belong in this class. Now, remember, our demonstrative pronouns do not fall in the function words. You emphasize your demonstrative pronouns. Now, also, if you also emphasize the negative. So see how right here, in these right here, these will not be emphasized. This is a pronoun, this is a verb, an auxiliary verb, but this is a negative. We emphasize the negative. So if we put this down in here, you would say, I do not belong in this class. See how it's emphasized. Now let's go in and talk about our conjunctions. And there's different kinds of conjunctions. And I like to put them together so you can see the difference in the conjunctions, because I think that they can be a tad bit confusing. So if you look at conjunction, let's parse this word. This is a Latin chameleon, that means with, and junct means to join. So if you think about that, you're joining with something. So if you can remember conjunction, joins, conjunction, junction, what's your function? You think about a conjunction, we're joining with something. So that's why this will help you understand all of these things, because you're understanding what a conjunction actually is. You're not just looking at this and saying, yeah, I know, but you're actually knowing what they're doing because you're joining with something. Okay, so these are your 7 conjunctions that we should have memorized that join groups of words or phrases or clauses together, words, phrases, and clauses. It's for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Now this right here is your acronym to help you remember. What is it, boys? Fanboys. If you can remember fanboys, then you can like write them off of here and then memorize them. So these need to be memorized as your main conjunctions. Now they do different things in a sentence. See, and, if you have and, they join and they have equal leverage in a sentence. If I say Daniel and Paul, they are equal. But if I say Daniel or Paul, it's one or the other. So you just need to be careful how you're using your conjunction. Sometimes you can use a multiple for the same things, and other times you don't. So you just need to be really careful on how to use an actual conjunction. Now, let's look at a subordinating conjunction, and that's where people get a little bit confused. These are easy. Conjunctions are super easy. Now, but your subordinating conjunctions, first off, let's understand what the word subordinating actually means. Sub means what?
Smaller or below.
Yeah, smaller, below, or under. And I put it a small or under for this, for understanding this. Smaller, under. Okay, think that in your mind. Understand that this is a smaller or under word. So, ordinating means you're setting it in order. It's in a certain rank. Okay, so it's small, it's in an order and rank under something. You're a subordinate. You're under somebody. Okay? Now, conjunction means you're with and you're joining. So, with a subordinating, it's a below word, it's an under word. But it's a joining word that joins two clauses together. Does that make sense, Paul? Okay, so now if there's lots of subordinating clauses, I just put subordinating words. I just put a few up here, and my kids actually have several of them memorized because they're easy to identify, they're easy to pull out if you can at least identify a decent portion of them. But these are a few: as, although, because, if, since, while. There's lots more, and that you can use in your sentences, but they join dependent and independent clauses together. Now, a clause they have to have a subject and a verb for them to be a clause. And a dependent clause can stand alone, but an independent clause has to have a dependent clause to make sense of it. So dependent and independent clauses, they're put together. Now let's look at this sentence. I like to walk through the trees because it lifts my spirits. Now I want to talk about a comma. I didn't want to forget. So, because is your subordinating conjunction. It is here to connect this clause to this clause. Once you put because into here, it has become an independent clause. So you can say it lifts my spirits. That can actually stand alone. But once this because is in here, then you know you're using it as a conjunction. Remember, conjunctions are function words. So you wouldn't emphasize these words. Does that make sense, Paul? But let's talk about this. This would be another comma rule. If you have this at the front of the sentence, so if I said, because it lifts my spirits, comma, I like to walk through the trees, period. But when you have it like this, and it comes after, then you don't comma it. And does that make sense? Now, if you really think that it needs a comma because it just sounds better to force that pause, then that is your choice to do that. But the comma rule is if you start it with a subordinating conjunction, which is an adverbial clause. This is an adverb clause, right? I would like to walk through the trees because it lifts my spirits. Because what lifts your spirits? Because you like it. This is an adverb clause describing like. Okay, if we look at the correlative conjunction, let's talk about first what does this mean? Well, we have cor means with, the same as con. Remember, they have the same meaning. It is a Latin prefix. And relative right here means you're relating it with somebody. It's a relative. All right, so conjunction also means with and to join. It's super important that you actually remember, what does a conjunction actually mean? Well, you can look at it and say you know what they are, but if you know what they actually mean, then you can really actually put your sentences together properly and understand what they're doing in the sentence. So now here, they work together as a team. Your pronouns have to agree. So they work together when you're working with a correlative conjunction. So they work in pairs. So you need to remember that. So we have either, and there's lots of them. I just took a few. You have either or, if and then, just as and so, rather and than, whether or. Now, here's a few sentences that I put together that will go with each one of these. And we'll see how they work. The run will be either exhilarating or overwhelming. I guess it just depends on the person. or if it's uphill or downhill. But see how they work together. They have a relationship with one another. Remember that these go together right here, boys. I need you to remember, these go together. These are conjunctions, so are these going to be emphasized right here? No, these are not content words. What are they? They're function words. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? They're function words. So they are not emphasized when you are doing your speaking. Now, look at this. Here's your, what's your subject?
Run.
Well, let's find the verb. What's your verb?
Oh, it is run. It is your subject.
Okay, this is your subject, and these are your verbs right here. Do you see that? See, these are connecting the verbs. This, these are connecting them. Do you see that? Now, will be exhilarating or overwhelming. These, what are these INGs? What tense are they in?
Present. In the future.
Okay, you're right. They are in the future what?
Progressive.
Progressive. Okay. And we're going to go even further in helping you understand these a little bit. But right now we're just going to say they're in the progressive future. Okay, so now let's go into this next one. We will go to the train station just as planned, so there is no confusion. See how this is a negative word? You would still emphasize this word. But right here are the two words that's connecting. What's it connecting? We will go to the train station, well, just as planned, and so. See how that works? You're using them together. I would rather go to the temple than to the trade center. Rather and then go together. Whether you go or not, I am going. They go together. I will take you to the store. If you finish your homework, then I will decide if it is too late to go. If and then, they go together as they're a relative. They are related to each other. You need to remember that they're related. And I challenge you to actually study these and see which ones actually go together so that when you put your sentences together, you know which ones actually go together. All right, so we have some 3-syllable words, mostly 3-syllable words. We have some others, but I just want to help you guys decode again some words. Now, here is the word colored, and we have colored. And if you can tap that out, you can hear that there's really only 2 syllables, but look how many vowels are in here. It looks like there's a lot more vowels, don't you think, boys? Look, all these vowels. And you'd almost think like this suffix right here would be its very own syllable, but this E is not making a sound, and so it is actually breaking right here. Colored. Colored. Now you might think that this word right here is spelt wrong, but it's not. Here in the United States, we spell color with just an O-R. All of the other areas spell it with an O-U-R. Most of the other areas spell it with an O-U-R. Now we have private. This, you can hear that it's long, private. So you know it breaks right here, because this is forcing this to be long. If you put it over here, it would say privet. Thievishly. This is weird. This one looks like it could be hard to break. Now, could this be a vowel team? Maybe. Could this be an open I and then this is a closed E? So you have to play with this word. And If you see an IE in the middle of a word, I would put it first as a vowel team before you break it into pieces. So then do thievishly, or you could do it like this, thieve-ish-ly. It doesn't matter on this one where the V actually lands, because either way, you're going to have the long E sound because of this vowel team. Okay, take off. How many syllables in this one, Paul? 2, nice, because you have a silent E syllable. This is a compound word. So you have a silent E syllable and then a closed syllable. So this looks like it could be key off. So be careful when you're breaking those. If you see a weird vowels put together and it doesn't look like your regular vowel teams that you would put, break them apart. See if you have a word here and a word here, and see if they are a compound word here. How many syllables in this word, Dan? Furniture.
3.
Nice. Furniture. You can hear exactly how it breaks. Furniture. So, you know how we talked about find your vowels. If you have 2 consonants in the middle, break them. But oftentimes, if you can figure it out, you can hear it break. Furniture. Furniture. Okay? How about this one, Paul? How many syllables in this one?
3.
Nice. What's that? 3, nice. Okay, so stupidest. Stupidest. Now, you might just think that it would break right here and your unit sound would be all by itself, but it's not. But you can hear it break right here. Stupidest. Can you guys hear that? Wrecking. See the CK? It breaks right here. You should see it. See the CK? This is a short vowel, so you know right off the bat it's going to break right here. You should look at it and know it when you see a CK, that it's going to break. Okay? How about fireproof? How many syllables there?
3. I mean 2.
2. There's 2 syllables because you have a compound word, fire and proof. This is a silent E syllable. This E could trip people up. They might think it's fiery proof, but it's not. It's fireproof. Sampling. It breaks right here. Sample is your base word with your suffix ing. So some people might think it is a 3-syllable word, sampling, but it's not. It's sampling. See the difference on that? So that's how you would say that word, not sampling, sampling. Snatches. How many syllables in that word?
2.
Nice. Snatches. As. I would definitely say snatch as. Okay? Eyelash. Paul, what do you think? Yeah, there's 2 in there. And this E is the one that trips people up. But you have a compound word. I and lash. Not E. This is even hard to pronounce. If it's so hard to pronounce that you can't get the word, E-yeah-lash. E-ye-lash. So this is its very own word. I. Oh God, you scared me. Okay. So we break it here. After. See, we have our vowels. Break it down the middle. After. You can hear it break. Skied. Is this, what kind of syllable? How many syllables are in here?
2.
What are you doing, D? So Daniel, this actually is a 1-syllable word. It looks like it's 2, but you hear it, skied. But because this E is silent, why do you hear why aren't we saying skied?
Because there's no D or T.
Yeah, this is not a D or a T. And so we don't hear skied. We hear skied. And this is a hard sound. So every vowel is a hard sound. So you say ah, you can feel your throat vibrate. So this forces this D, this ED to sound D. Okay? Zucchini. How many syllables there?
3.
Nice.
4, 3.
Zucchini. I would break it here. Zucchini. Zucchini. And a lot of people say zucchini, and so this would be confusing, but I would still break it here. Zucchini. Zucchini or zucchini.
Zucchini.
I think it depends on where you live on how you say that word. Zucchini. Zucchini. Macaroni. Macaroni. That's a 4-syllable word. Macaroni. Why is this saying and not saying macaroni? Yeah. Okay, how come this is saying
It's accented.
This is not accented. This is not the accented syllable, and this is the accented syllable. That's why this says mac, and this says This is an open A, so it says it's schwa sound, and this says mac, because it's the accented syllable. Closed A's say it's short sound if it's accented. Gateway breaks right there. This is a compound word. Gate and way. Look at all these vowels in here. But you have to look to see, is it a compound word? Is it a not compound word? See if you have a silent E sitting in there to see if that makes sense. Same thing here, sidekick. It breaks right here, side and kick. It's a 2-syllable word, but it looks like it could be a 3-syllable word. Looks like it's a sidey kick. Have you heard of a sidey kick? So be careful with those. Handwork. It just breaks. This is a compound word. How about this one? This says medieval.
3.
Medieval. Okay. Medieval.
Medieval.
Medieval. This one's a weird word because if you think of medieval times, it's like the middle of, the beginning, and here we are now. It's kind of in the middle. And you would think that it should say M-I-D, but it switched to M-E-D, but it does. So it stands for in the middle of the time. So it's interesting that this changed and it didn't stay an I, because mid, M-I-D, is a prefix for middle. Do you guys remember that? Perinatal. Okay, what about here? Perinatal. Nice. Yes. So you can hear it. Perinatal. There. 1. Unto.
2.
2. It just breaks right there. Friendship. 2. 2. It's a compound word. This right here, is it going to break apart? So if not always, will it be a vowel team? So see if it breaks apart or keep it as a vowel team. If you don't understand the word, you could say friend. Friend doesn't make sense. Friend. All right, lavender. How many? 3. Lavender. So see how the V actually ends up over here. Manager.
3.
Manager. All right. Okay, so now we talked a little bit about color and color. We have colorless, and this could be colorless. See how we spell this, you guys. And how I oftentimes, this is how I actually remember to spell this, color, and see if you guys can help you spell color. C-O-L-O-R. Let's just do that. And I put eyeballs in here. This is how I helped. And then I put their smiley face. So the L is the nose, and we have the two O's. So I never spell this word wrong because I like to make the smiley face with that. You can't do that with this one. It just doesn't look right. But this is also the correct way to spell color. But the American English, it would be this, but this is not considered wrong. This actually right here, if you see O-U-R, it's considered French. French is in lots of the English language. And this used to be how color was spelt all the time, and then it was changed. So the Americans changed this so it's easier to spell. And if you read a really old book and you see this word, this is probably how they spelt it. And this will be actually in quite a few words where you either have the O-U-R or we have taken the U out of it, and it's considered spelled correctly. Let's look at this. Let's just divide this into syllables. We're going to find our vowels, and we have two consonants in the middle. It's going to break right there. And then let's find our vowels here, but we see a B-L-E. This is a consonant L-E syllable. So as soon as you notice a consonant L-E syllable, you know that stays together. So it's going to break right here. Bus, ta, bull. This is the accented syllables. This turns to schwa, bustable, able to bust. What about this one? Let's break this apart. Do you think this is going to stay together? Or do you think we should break it apart, boys? And we're going to, most of the time, like in the 80s percentile, this consonant's going to come to the end this direction, okay? So you guys want to break it? And let's see what it says. Well, if we break it, receipt. Have you heard of receipt? This is a hard word to read. If you have never read this word, it's a hard word to read, and you have to use it as a spelling word or you will not spell this word properly. Okay, so let's not have it like that. Let's not break it apart, okay? So if it doesn't make sense breaking it apart, use it as a vowel team or use it as a vowel team first. Now let's do it now. Receipt. Have you heard of receipt? No, this P is silent. So this, you just need to take your true sight words and actually read them and memorize them. And this would be a true sight word because you have a silent letter there. And this is the spelling rule, boys. I really want you to pay attention to this. If I before E except after C, that's how you typically spell the EI or the IE. I before E except after C. Okay, so is this after a C? So you're going to spell it with an EI. Okay, so now let's do this. We have one in the middle. It's going to break, and then we have our vowels here, and we have two in the middle. So we're going to break it down the middle. So this is an open A. It is the accented syllable A, gen, C. A, gen, C. Okay. How about this one? How are we going to break this one? So we have our vowels. We're going to break it right there. And then we have vowels here. And then this is a vowel team. So we have a vowel here. How many do we have in here in the middle?
3.
We have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right?
I thought you meant like 3.
Yeah, so we have 4 consonants in the middle. So you either have to do a 1-3 split, or you need to look and see if you have a compound word. If you have a compound word, then you split it where that word breaks. Is this a compound word? Yeah, it is. So, but this still gives it a 1-3 split. So if you have STR, these are a 3-letter blend, and it sounds really nice together, stir. And you will see lots of 3-letter blends in Latin roots. This is, but either way, this is a compound word in this one. And this is long, so it's going to say O. ER says over, stru. EW says oo. Now look at this one. Our vowels here, EY says E. And where's the CK go? Does it go next to the I or next to the E? Do we break it here or here? Right here or here?
The I.
Right here?
Wait, no, yeah.
Okay, now remember, if you have a CK, it is always attached to the I or the vowel it affects. And it's going to force that to be short, actually. And it says Mickey and then
Mouse.
Mickey Mouse. So this is a 1-syllable word. And it looks like there's 3 vowels, so it could be really confusing. This E right here is only there because if you don't have the E there, that S would be plural for mow. And there's no mouse. There's nothing. If you have an S at the end, it means it's plural. So you have to have either an SE or a CE to make this sound. And most of the time, you need a CE to make this sound because most of the time, SE says Z. Mickey Mouse. Okay, so we have the word dictionary. We're gonna break it like this. So we're gonna find our vowels, the two in the middle, and we have our unit sound, shun, air, e. Dictionary. And it could even maybe break right here. Dictionary. Dictionary. I think people would argue about that, but either way works. Recipe. Now, recipe. This is very unusual to have an E at the end that actually says the E sound. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah. And
well, this right here, sweetheart, is Greek. So it's going to say the K sound, and this is open, so it's going to say K. It's the accented syllable, and then this is a closed O. Chaos. Okay? Cardinal. Cardinal. A lot of people will say cardinal. I say cardinal. You can hear that short I sound. How about this one? Rashless. Sound. Spreadable. We have spread. Bull. Spread. It breaks right here. Spread. Bull. You can hear it. Spread. Bull. How about this one? What do you guys think? Oh, nice. Mole. Tipple. Okay, so see how the PLE that stays together? It's a consonant LE syllable, so make sure that stays together. Exceeding. The EX is a prefix. You need to keep it together. And see how this C, the D is going over with the ing, exceeding. In here, the D stayed over here, spread, bull. So sometimes it will come over here and sometimes it won't when you break it apart. Okay, so now let's look at these words. We're going to find our vowels. Let's just find them. Okay, so typically we would go, and then if you have double letters, you're gonna just break it in the middle. So let's get this word, figure out this word, stiletto. Have we heard of stiletto? No, so that is not broken in the right place. So it says stiletto. That's actually how it goes, stiletto. Let's find our vowels. Two in the middle, it's going to break. It's going to go after. This is the accented syllable because this says it's short sound. Okay, so now look, we have our vowels. We have vowel teams right here. Yeah, so when we have three in the middle, oftentimes we do a 1-2 split right here, but then look for a compound word. This is a compound word, and it's out and break. These are vowel teams. This one, I think, this word can be super hard to spell. I don't have a hard time spelling this word because I relate it to the word science. And you just have to do that to make sure that you're spelling, unless you are crazy good at spelling, and some people are fantastically good at spelling and others have to really work at it. And so let's find our vowels. So do you think we should break this one apart? So we're gonna use this one as a vowel team, okay? And so we have three in the middle. Typically, if you see a chameleon prefix, break it where the chameleon is, con. We have learned what that is. That should be identified, boom. But still, if you don't know, we have the 1-2 split over here. One goes this way, two goes this way. And so this, if you see an SC like this, what do you guys register it as? Where does it come from? Latin or Greek? It is, it's Greek. So it's going to say conscience. And this is going to say the short E sound. Look at this word. Remember the rule? I before E except after C. But look, does this follow that rule?
No.
This is a true spelling word. This is a true spelling word too, but it's at least following the rule. This, if you don't know, follow the rule. But once in a while, you're going to have words that will not follow the rule. But you don't spell this word correctly all of the time is because I spell con and then science. I just always know I relate it to that. Even though conscience is to be your guide, they're different. But then you spell the word science, S-C-I-N-C-E. And almost everybody knows how to spell the word science. And it's something that you study, it's something that you learn. Okay, good. Look at this, guys. We're going to find our vowels. 2 in the middle, we're going to break it. Oh, 3 in the middle, we're going to do the 1-2 split, penmanship. This is the accented syllable. This turns to schwa, penmanship. Let's find our vowels, guys. I'm going to go ahead and break it over here. Pel, I-kun. This turns to schwa, pelican. Okay, let's find our vowels. We're going to break it right down the middle. There's 2. And where's this one going to break? So it's going to break right here. Now this is a little bit tricky. If you have an open E and an open I in the middle of a word, it will say, oftentimes, unless it's accented, it will say it's short sound. So it says magnetic. So this T falls over into this syllable. Okay, let's find our vowels in here. We have 2 in the middle. We're going to break it. Okay, and let's find our vowels here. Establish. Establish. Oftentimes, you guys, we have, if you have an L, it's going to grab that letter and bring it over. It did not do that in this syllable. It breaks right here. Establish. You can hear it break in this one. You have to be careful with R's and L's. It will grab this letter right here. Okay, let's find the vowels. It's going to break here and right here. Typically, well, you know what? It does break right there, but I'm going to show you guys. If we broke it here, it would say Cadillac. Cadillac. Have you heard of a Cadillac? Don't. So if you haven't heard of it, switch it over, and it's going to say it's short sound, Cadillac. Cadillac. There's actually 2 accents in this one. That's the reason why this says a and this says a. So sometimes it will have 2 accented syllables, and this is one of those words.
Squeakiest.
Oh, squeakiest. Is this a vowel, you guys? This U? Is it a vowel?
No.
No, it's not.
No.
If it's by its Q, it is not considered a vowel. So when you see it by a Q, and this, sorry, I probably should have wrote, that's a cursive Q. If you see it, just say, oh, that's not part of the vowel. It's part of my Q. Could this be a vowel team?
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably most likely in the middle of a word like that. It's probably most likely a vowel team. Sometimes they split, but we're going to make it a vowel team, and then we're going to do that. We're going to go squeakiest. Squeakiest. So your base word is squeak, and this, when you added on the Y, it sucked over that K, and this went, I like you so much. And anyways, they became a team. All right, that's it for this lesson, and I really hope that you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next lesson.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.